That was extremely tough for the both of us, and I wasn't in the greatest place. I was pretty depressed and just kind of going through life, trying to see if you can rise to the occasion. I think those are the moments that I really look forward to. Ben, strategically reacts and then puts himself against your number 2 mixed team, ensuring that they win 3-1.
In this week's episode, I sit down with professional player Julian Arnold and his business partner and childhood friend Ryan Cohen to recap his team's MLP Super Finals win, the release of a new paddle, discussing life before pickleball, as well as Julian opening up about the most influential person in his life. What excites me most about talking with professional players is being able to share their story, the story that lives off the court. We see the performer, but rarely do we hear from the person. This is the story of Julian Arnold, someone who took his second chance to heart. This is Building Pickleball.
I had to do a lot. I had to do
the
morning routine, the shower, wolf down half a sandwich.
You're looking decent.
The comb over. The part. We're gonna go get some nice Korean food right now.
Dude, I saw you, I was driving to go play pickleball, and I was driving along South Lamar because no one was at Sark, and then saw you and Lauren walking to somewhere. You guys go to like Uchiko or something?
We're saying you wanted to capture something on your
Was she wearing blue last night?
Yeah.
Oh, we went to Juliet's.
Oh, nice.
It was alright. Wasn't my favorite, to be honest. It's alright.
MLP. I mean, MLP's like the best thing to talk about right now because it was like a crazy story. I mean, from my perspective, like filming it, it was like super cool. It wouldn't have been a story if you guys just won straight up. But the fact that like there was an anticipation building up, like after you guys, was it quarterfinals against the Fives?
Yeah.
That happened. To me, that wasn't the best performance. I was like, and that just happens, right? As a professional athlete, you just have off matches, off days, things like that. And then like the next day, everyone's just kind of sitting and waiting, like what's going to happen in the championship match against the Pioneers and the Fives. And then I was like creepily recording you from like from a distance. I don't know if you knew, but I was like recording you, just trying to get your reaction. Like once they lost, it was sweet because going into it, everyone's like, "Dude, Fives have a great singles team."
Yeah, because it's a dream breaker.
Yeah. Fives have a great single team, and then capturing that was like super like exciting. And then going into the Super Finals championship, maybe I don't have a good pulse on the scene, but I wouldn't necessarily call it an upset. I don't think 3-0 was what I was expecting, but I wouldn't say it was like an upset. But yeah, man, go ahead, share your thoughts. Give me your thoughts on just like MLP as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, MLP as a whole, it's super exciting. I love the team aspect. I love the schedule. I think it makes it very, very easy for spectators to follow their favorite players, their favorite teams, whatever. Make sure they're watching key matchups. So yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot of things going for it. Things that obviously are easier in that team setting where there's less matches. It's a little harder for the PPA to do something like that at the moment, but I'm sure as the sport grows, we'll eventually get to that point where maybe we're lengthening the duration of tournaments and not doing a whole draw in one day, but that's to be seen. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the main tournament, I guess, ended a little sooner than we wanted, but we ran into a very good team. The Fives are obviously right there. It's those top 3 teams that really kind of separated themselves from the rest of the pack. So obviously they have Annalie, who's one of the, if not the best female player to ever play as of now. James, who's very large, dominant player, great hands, can play all 3 events. And, when it comes to the Dream Breaker, and also I think, in general, she's stepped up her doubles game. Leia is very, very solid. She's one of the few players that in a Dream Breaker can even challenge Annalie, and they're on the same team. I think the only other girl happens to be on our team, who's Catherine. and then Hayden, who's been just continuing to get better. I was fortunate enough to play with Hayden a lot last year, and I really enjoy playing with the kid. It's kind of like a younger brother to me. So yeah, he's been playing great.
Yeah.
So they have amazing skills, and like you said, that's just sometimes how it goes. You're not playing your best, you're not going to beat a team like that. With us losing there, I thought the chances of us making this Monday final weren't as good. I didn't really know the math, and then I found out that they had to actually win the whole thing. I thought they just had to make it to like the semis or something. So when that happened, I thought our chances were a little higher, but it got about as close as possible. I mean, they lost in a dream breaker to the Pioneers, and like you said, also I think most people would have assumed on paper that the Fives would take a dream breaker, but I think MLP has shown that it's not necessarily about having the best singles players. Obviously, you want people that if they don't play singles, you want people that could.
Yeah.
They can go out there for 4 points. There's an element of pressure for the top singles players to go out there and do what they're supposed to do. And the nature of singles is that it's a shot making game. If someone goes out there and just hits a passing shot, it doesn't matter how good you are, like you're going to get beat. So just because you are the better player on paper doesn't mean you're just going to go out there and win. So I think the Fives, with the expectation that they should win, felt the pressure a little bit. And the girls on the Pioneers really performed well, and Tyler did his thing against Annalee. So, I think they took strategy that the Fives kind of showed by, Annalee playing guys in the first two events, and saw how like, okay, well, that seems like a strategy to kind of neutralize her. Because if you can go 2-2 with your weaker male singles player, or maybe even squeak out a couple 3-1s, that's pretty good. And then maybe let one of your girls go against their second male singles player and just hope for the best. I think.
What did Tyler do against Annalee?
I don't know exactly, but I think he did fairly well. I think it might have been like maybe 2-2, but then I think he got a 3-1 in there somewhere. Basically just neutralizing her. I think Megan did pretty good against Hayden, and kind of the same thing with Etta. I think Etta had like a winning series against Leia, and then maybe an even series against Leia, and then obviously Ben did very well against James. I think he went 3-1 in the first round, and he missed a serve. So like, that's enough to create I think there was like a 10-point margin or something.
It started out hot.
8-point mark. I think they crept back a little bit when they got to 20, but I think it ended up being like 21-14 or something. So at least the Dream Breaker wasn't super close. I would have been sweating over there. I was already, every other point, head down, like freaking out. So
It was nerve-wracking, man.
I'd say even with the point differential, at least from when I look back on the weekend, watching that matchup, I was right next to Zubin and stuff, and I just remember it was so freaking stressful compared to the actual like super final, where there's a lot of like release of pressure. I think I saw it across like the whole Mad Drops team, and there's just a lot of excitement that we just got there. And then it was like, hey, I'll show up and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more nerve-wracking to watch than to actually be out there and kind of in control of your own destiny.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd agree with what Ryan said. Like, I felt like my whole goal was like just to get the opportunity to play on Monday. We were in such a good position to do that I just wanted that opportunity. You're guaranteed an extra $14K just for showing up on Monday, and then obviously the payout for winning is so much more. So the opportunity to play for the 60K is huge.
Does that incentivize you?
I mean,
I'd
yes.
I'd say it also makes you probably a little more, feel the pressure and.
Or was
the
it Drew being there that inspired you up?
I told Drew he needs to show up to every match from now on.
This is our livelihood. Most of us are doing this full time, so I don't know who would answer that question and say like, oh no, it's not about the money. Like, obviously we all enjoyed what we're doing, and we're happy that this is our line of work. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot of people's like hobby. Obviously it's more than a hobby for us. We have to take it a little bit more seriously. Our matches are way more stressful than just going out to the park and playing with your friends, and afterwards it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if you could go 0-6 on the day, and it's like, yeah, maybe you're not that happy, but like ultimately you went out and got a good exercise and played pickleball. Like for us, it's like, well, if you go 0-2 on a tournament, like, okay, you're not making money. So
Yeah. Yeah, as a pro athlete, like, you don't get to play when you want. You have to play when you have to. And it's also like, you can't just play impulsively. Like, on looking from the outside, for most people, like coming from a professional sports background, everyone's like, oh, well, you get to do what you love every day. You're like, well, not really, because eventually what you're doing as like what you love becomes like, it almost gets to a point where you somewhat hate it, and you have to love to hate it, because you're going through training. You're having to do it like day in and day out. You also just have to like watch tape. You have to constantly be competing, where a lot of people, like, it's almost like vacation, right? Like, we enjoy vacation because we get it in like the times that we want it. But as a professional athlete, you have to do it repetitively and on a consistent basis. So, yeah, I was just curious, like, what else, like, what intrinsically like motivates you? Because there is, when I like get to film you, like, if for anyone listening that doesn't know, like, I got to film you at Rockwall and I got to film you at St. Clemente, like, watching you get fired up, I'm like, this has to be like, it got me excited. I was like, that reminds me of when I used to fight, and just being able to see you do that, and like exerting your like passion and just watching you perform. I was like, oh man, that's got to be the most incredible feeling. And I kind of have to like kiss those days goodbye, right? But watching you be able to do it, I'm like, damn, like, I miss what that felt like, and being able to see you do that is just like, yeah, it got me like super, super thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to what you were saying about the enjoyment, I think like I agree with the sense that like, I mean, I guess it's more like you got to learn how to enjoy it in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you still got to love it. If you don't, then you lose that drive. But you're loving different aspects of it. You're loving the competition, that those moments, like you just said, where you're on a big stage playing for something that's very important, and trying to see if you can rise to the occasion. I think those are the moments that I really look forward to.
My ideal morning starts with being able to go to my clothes drawer and find exactly what I want without experiencing analysis paralysis, trying to decide what to wear. I'm big on optimizing my time and mental space, so as far as choosing clothes goes, this is one less decision I have to make. I've always been a fan of Vuori because of how versatile and comfortable the clothes are. They're super, super soft. One shirt can be worn for working from home, playing pickleball, going out to grab dinner, or working out. And that's why I'm proud to announce a new partnership with Vuori. They're offering you a discount of 20% off your first purchase. Go get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet by going to vuori.com/buildingpickleball. That's vuori.com/buildingpickleball. I'll include the URL in the show description down below. Enjoy the rest of the show. That was great to capture that. It's because, like, if it just ended with you at the quarterfinals against the fives, great. Like, this, we know this isn't Julian. Like, if you got outright just beat and you just got beat competitively, that'd be one thing. But to just like see players or athletes just having an off day or an off match or an off performance, you're like, I want to see that happen a second time. You want to see the rematch, and it's, or like at least your redemption. And then the super finals was that. It's like, oh, this is who we were supposed to see at the fives match. Granted, not taking anything away from them at all. They played great, but it was also very clear that it didn't seem like you played to your fullest ability. So like you said, just rising to the occasion, that super finals match was the perfect example and story of that. And you saw it in full effect. I mean, going 3-0 against that team was like incredible. And
Julian, what was your walkout song? and why?
Did you have a walkout song?
I don't think they didn't end up using it.
Oh man,
What was it in the what was it supposed to be?
It's supposed to be bounce back.
I originally thought that they were asking for a song for our whole team.
Uh-huh.
Oh
So I picked "Bounce Back" by Big Sean because I thought it was fitting for.
yeah.
I mean that like we wanted you said people maybe wanted to see the rematch, and we did play the Fives, or excuse me, the Pioneers in the group play, and we lost 3-1. No.
It was controversial.
No. Yeah, we lost 3-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I felt like we were right in that match,
Yeah.
Thomas and I, we had that men's match. The girls honestly had a decent chance if they hadn't started. I think they got down like 8-1 and then made it a decently close match. Like probably lost like 21-17 or something. So just in the rally scoring, it's tough to get down so big and try to make something of it. So I just feel like all of us didn't really come out and play our best, and then just like we had discussed that time and the time before when we lost to them in the semis in Florida, both times we went down 0-2. And that's pretty much a death sentence against that team, because then Ben strategically put it, well, I take that back. If you're down 0-2 and you're not reacting to mix, then your chances of winning are a couple percents. So Ben, strategically reacts and then puts himself against your number 2 mixed team, ensuring that they win 3-1. So that was we probably talked for like an hour, at least, before the match on Monday, just discussing like what we wanted to do, what happens here, like who do we want to play. There was a lot of discussion back and forth of whether we should do these different strategies, and I was pretty adamant about I want to play straight up. Like
that's so awesome.
The match for us, like I look at our team and I feel like our team is built on the fact that every player is very well rounded. We can all play singles. We can all play mixed and doubles. So I didn't think like, because Athena was throwing out the ideas of like, basically kind of sacrificing like, oh, let's try to get, because I don't think we really thought like the 2-0 was like a high percentage.
Okay.
So we were kind of planning for more of the percentage of like, all right, let's just not go down 0-2. So let's go 1-1, and then what do we do? And she was really saying like maybe we put Thomas and Irina against Ben, and you and Catherine go play Tyler again, who we beat in the group stage, and I think we won like 21-14 or something. So a team that we probably should beat more often than not. But at the same time, you just never know with pickleball. Like with sport, you just never know. Like just because you're supposed to win doesn't mean you're gonna. Like you still have to go play well. Everyone out here is great players. So these are such small differences between a team that wins 55% of the time or wins 45% of the time, whatever. So so my philosophy was like, let's play straight up. Let's like I'd rather take like 2 bites out of the apple instead of putting all our eggs in one basket kind of thing. Like I believe that Thomas and Irina can beat Tyler and Megan, and I believe that me and Catherine could beat Ben and Etta. And I just think that percentage-wise, that's the way to play. Like that's how you build an MLP team. You build an MLP team that you feel like every match you go out there, you legitimately have a chance to win. If you feel like one of your teams just rarely has a chance to win, that's really tough. That puts a lot of pressure on the other players to go like, oh, you got to go out there and win every single one of your matches. And then all of a sudden that pressure creeps in. So
yeah. And if you think that, there's a high likelihood the other team also thinks that.
Oh, I think we all are pretty much on the same page. Like most of these players, like outside of Andre and Kyle and Simone, are all on the PPA. We all know each other, and even those 3 players, like we know them as well. Like it's not like we haven't seen them. So everyone knows what everyone's capable of, and kind of has an idea of what matches should win and what shouldn't. Not to say that always happens. But.
Yeah. What's the role of team captain like? Like when you said Athena, who's for anyone listening, that's is Catherine's fiance or girlfriend?
Or no, they got married. Yeah.
Okay. It's her wife and coach.
And yeah, I don't know if coach. I think she like obviously like drills with her, and Athena is a fairly good player herself. I think she used to play pro. So I would put her at like a low level pro.
Yeah.
And obviously like her manager, so she's I think overseeing a lot. She sees stuff and recommends that. I'm just not sure like how much like technical work someone like Catherine's doing, or a lot of us really. It's kind of pickleball's at that stage where there's not a whole lot of coaches that are in a coaching position that
surprising
some of us are going to actually work with.
Yeah.
Just because professional play hasn't been around for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways, she's great for having an extra set of eyes. It's basically like having another top player like on the sidelines just watching. And then, what I love about Athena, especially during the matches, is like nothing she says is too like direct or like, it's an absolute. She always like, I felt like when we were playing the mixed matches or, my men's matches, she would like, if I saw that she wanted to say something, I'd come over and she'd always start things off with like, what do you think about doing this? Like, what do you think, how do you think this would work? Just like, trying to get the gears turning a little bit, which I always like, because I like receiving that information without necessarily like feeling like this is something that she really wants me to commit to. It's just like, hey, maybe this could be what do you think about it? And I say, well, I'm not great at that, or that would work. Like I do have that shot, like, those kind of things. So I really like the way that she was delivering her advice on the sidelines. I think
Great
perfect.
To get that. It's like an open-ended question rather than a leading like statement. And that way it allows you to like conceive thoughts in an open way.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about the strategy going into the Pioneers match. I think we got our revenge, and the game plan worked out, obviously better than expected, but like I was saying, I feel like the team matched up well against them.
Yeah. The Pioneers didn't have like their crowd base, like there's like I didn't hear anything from that side. I don't know like how that impacts you, but if there's like a crowd of supporters and they're rooting for you, then it's like definitely helpful.
I just like a high energy crowd. I mean, there was even at one point,
who was that?
She like works for Vulcan or something, and she just called me a basically like it's like I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we're winning, but it's like, I mean, she's also. She like follows Jay or Tyler around to their matches all the time, and I feel like every time I've played them, she's on the sidelines like cheering at the most ridiculous points. Like I have no problem people cheering for their favorite players on a great point, but it's like, I miss a return or like a high ball that I should have made. I'm not even this. I'm talking about in general, like. This one was just she was reacting out of pure frustration because we were winning. I think it was a result that most people going into the match would have said, all right, the Mad Drops girls maybe have a slight edge, and then the guys on the Pioneers are like a shoo-in to win that match, and then the mix is a toss up. I think most people thought, if anything, it's going to go to a Dream Breaker, or Pioneers probably win 3-1. That would be the percentage if you were going to take a poll.
God, I wish betting was around.
Yeah,
the bets would have been
insane.
Amazing.
Yeah, 3-0 is ridiculous. So yeah, as a fan, MLP, It's the coolest event. I've had the experience to go a few times, and
That venue is.
that was my favorite venue.
That's,
Can't even
one,
put
that's
into
probably
words.
one of
yeah.
I'd say even like most of us, it's our favorite PPA venue.
Damn.
Which is surprising because it's not like it's a huge venue or anything. It's just, San Clemente is a gorgeous area in California. That center court is very cool, and
No bad seat, which I mean, as a fan, I've been to some of the other MLPs and other events, and if you're not in the VIP or court side, you might have a hard time going to the bathroom or getting a drink and coming back and feeling that you didn't miss any action. But with this venue, I'd run to the bathroom and then I could kind of like stand up at the top of the steps and just like watch a point or two and then go down to my seat. But everyone had such a great view from every angle, which is not the normal experience for
Like the rolling mountains in the backdrop,
Yeah.
and like during y'all's Super Finals match, the sun was setting. I was like, this is like incredible. Like, I hope they're capturing this like to the fullest extent.
yeah, California obviously has a lot of pluses. Playing there to me is one of the best environments too, because I feel like the ball feels like its truest compared to
Oh.
playing in like altitude or playing, for instance, here in Austin right now when it's 100 degrees every day.
So bad.
Even a Dura feels like a piece of Play-Doh. In California, the ball feels the way it's supposed to. It plays very consistently. You might have to deal with wind, but I think wind is something that I would rather deal with the wind than like horribly muggy conditions or like super, super cold, like high altitude, you can't feel the ball. I think it's even more important with these plastic balls because there's just not a lot of feel to begin with. So yeah, hopefully someone's out there making a better ball.
Yeah.
Because I'm tired of the Dura, to be honest. Like, it's just so inconsistent. And a color that I can see. Because faded yellow against white paddles is just horrendous. Or white background, anything. It's like even the screen. Like during that last mix match, the screen was bugging out, and then it would turn on, and like it's at max brightness, and I'm like, there was a couple points in there. I was like, I literally, like, thank goodness they kept the ball on Catherine for most of it, and I just kind of like snuck in for one because I'm like, it's like a blur right now. I'm looking over Ben's shoulder, and it's just like this. It's like I'm staring into like a TV screen. So
Yeah.
they had the screensaver at one point.
and
I was like,
I get that they need to do the sponsorships and stuff, but at that point, it just looks so bad.
And it was glitchy.
Fiddling with it while it's on TV. Like, just keep it black. If we need to go to another like commercial timeout and you want 2 minutes to fiddle with it, great. But at that point, I think it just looks bad when you're like got this stuff just glitching in the background. You got like a corner of like a Apple window, and like it just like didn't look good.
Yeah. Unless it's a Volair ad, just shut that thing off.
Right. What if he does an ad or Evan just like kind of like wiggling, dancing across the screen?
that was Volair actually planned that. We actually unplugged all the screens because we're not an official sponsor. I'm just joking. Hopefully next year we'll be an official sponsor of the MLP. That's the hopes right now.
I mean, one-time MVP, won Mesa, won the first inaugural Super Finals. Like, what more do you need to sell?
They should have done. I don't think they did an MVP for the Super Final.
No MVP.
Probably
they didn't.
Just
Well,
one match. It didn't really make sense.
Yeah, and it would be like
Finals MVP.
you or Catherine because you both played 2 matches. Like that's how little pickleball was actually played in one match.
Yeah.
If you go 3-0.
Yeah, I don't know how many people know this, but Ryan was like my second guest on the podcast, and you can go back and listen to it because Ryan would love for you to listen to it.
Worst interview ever.
Yeah, but you guys have known each other. Ryan has showed me photos of you guys back in like, it looks like high school, maybe even before. Ryan had a chin strap. It was very cool. He was wearing like a NBA jersey. Julian looked like no facial hair.
Looked like a little kid.
Yeah.
A little kid. You know what photo I'm talking about? Remember how the San
You're like
Diego hat
scuba
was
diving or
like
something.
Is this the one with me, you, Turbo, and Shane?
there was, I
That,
showed
that
him one
one's
of those.
that one's high school. Like,
Yeah, those are all.
24-hour relay.
And if we're wearing helmets, that was in Italy, which was only 5 years ago. So there was that one was not that.
That was
long ago.
5
4.
years ago.
4 years ago.
4
yeah.
years ago.
That was only 4 years ago.
Damn. Okay.
That was
A lot
not
has changed.
too long ago.
Yeah. You guys have been homies for a while, and like
Yeah.
you've mentioned in the previous interviews that Ryan was one of the people who gave you a little nudge towards pickleball. You're also co-founders of Volair. Like Ryan, from your perspective, what was it like to see kind of like going through that entire event, right? Like watching Julian, we had both talked about like, damn, that quarterfinals match, he just didn't show up. That wasn't him, right? And we both, like, a lot of people knew that. And then you got to see him like rise to the occasion for super finals. What's that like to watch your buddy? Not only just, it's not like it was a one-off, right? Like you won Mesa. People were probably like, cool, he did it once. He got MVP. Maybe they're like, oh, that's it. And
Yeah.
for like 2 years now, you're like,
They played.
he's not.
They also, there was a lot of talks about we played with a Franklin ball that helped him out a lot. So
Ryan has said numerous times that it's not like.
I mean,
you're
I
not
like.
flashing
Don't get me
pan.
wrong. I like the Franklin. Like
Really?
I used to hate on it because it doesn't spin as much. It doesn't grab as well, but it also doesn't crack. It doesn't go egg like and
Yeah.
oblong. So I appreciate certain things about and it's fluorescent. Like that makes such a big
yeah.
difference. Like that ball is so much easier to see, and it's not even a great fluorescent. Like it could be. I think the fluorescent Dura is actually better. The Franklin's kind of like a faded neon.
Yeah.
Um,
So any ball developers or designers,
We have a ball. We have a Volair ball. It's actually pretty good. We're focused on paddles, so we're not going to try to be a ball sponsor anytime soon. And for Julian, there's no reason for him to, he should be only playing with the tournament ball because that's only going to get him ready for success. So, I do think there are a lot of other balls out there, and development is happening. But it all depends on, for the PPA or MLP, which is what Julian's playing is, what is the tournament ball? So,
going balls
Being-
deep on balls right
yeah,
now.
being dialed in on that tournament balls. I mean, you'll never see Julian say, "Here's a Volair ball, like I play with it every day," because that's not true. Like, unless it's a tournament ball, he's not going to play with it. He shouldn't play with it.
I don't even like to play with the fluorescent Dura because it actually plays significantly different than the yellow one. So
Damn.
I see a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, we play with Duras, and they pull out, the fluorescent one. It's like, well, that's actually quite a bit softer than the yellow one that you would play a PPA tournament with. So if you are an amateur player who plays tournaments, I would highly recommend, using the exact ball that the PPA uses. So,
Yep, I agree with that.
No matter how expensive they are.
or how quickly they break.
Yeah,
Yep. That's a huge problem.
Great for Onyx.
yeah.
hey, they also make the Z5, most popular paddle on Amazon. I am a former Z5 customer, so thank you so much for helping me.
Dude, New Pipo got me.
Oh
That
yeah,
was my first paddle.
Is that how you say it? New Pipo?
Is it
I've
New
never
Pipo?
said it right.
New Pipo?
New Pipo?
I have no idea.
Yo, what was up with that Instagram post?
I used to love that Frank Anthony Davis commercial.
They don't play anymore, right?
No, I think he plays a gearbox, so
Oh, he switched. Damn.
that
They
back
probably-
overhead.
They probably had him
Yeah.
tied in that thing for a minute. Did you see that
Viv used to
Instagram
play-
post?
Viv used to play with the paddle too. I have no idea who plays with it anymore. Maybe
don't
Jack
know.
Foster.
Yeah,
I think Jack uses it.
unless he switched. But that,
Hopefully they
I
got him
remember.
in a-
I haven't seen him in a little bit. So
They
I'm not
posted
sure.
an Instagram post with like Ben Johns using the New Pipo.
When?
I thought
Like,
I saw
recently.
the photo. I thought that they were making fun of him by photoshopping that in. I
Yeah.
Think, okay.
Maybe.
I think it was a photo where he was using a Franklin because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but in the picture, his shirt or
Definitely
hat
his
says
Franklin days.
So
Yeah.
that's where I think they're just making fun of him. But hey, if anyone actually felt the paddle that Julian just won the super final with,
Whip that thing up.
well, I mean, he actually
That one's not it, but
No, that's not the exact one.
that's
but
the model.
he. So this is what our new power paddle that's coming out right now. Here, I'll show it to you. This
There
is
you
the
go.
Forza right here, And so Julian was playing with this in a 16 millimeter for about a month and a half, 2 months, 4 PPA tournaments, and made a last second switch back to a 14 millimeter of our non-thermoform paddle, the Mach 1, which to most players is like a pretty wild thing to think, hey, I'm going to switch morning of for, a big tournament. But at least from my view, I know that Julian was not the happiest with his results in the last couple months, and maybe it was a little mental, maybe it was a little bit of touch, but him switching back, he had the best, really controlled dinks and drop shots by going back to the soft paddle.
Dude, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Especially in an event where the stakes are super high.
Yeah.
You just stick with what, and that's like the biggest like factor that could determine. There's like nothing else really, right?
I mean,
that you have control over.
It's like I kind of almost like feel like it's the closest thing is like a Formula One driver in their car.
Yeah.
Like you can be an amazing driver, but if the car isn't performing and reacting and doing the things that you want, you're not going to win. So,
and your confidence in the tool.
and then
I think that's humongous too,
it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Then you don't have the confidence to hit shots or drive the way you want, whatever. Yeah. So whether it's like 100% true or not, like I still think that the Forza is a fantastic paddle. It's just, for me, I felt like it was too poppy. I was getting a little too much power, which I don't think will be the case for most people.
Not for Emily Ackerman.
I think I do think it's a fantastic paddle for girls. It's great because their swing speed isn't quite as high, and then it meshes really well with the amount of power that paddle is going to deliver at that swing speed. And there's a ton of things about it that I loved. Like it felt really good on the serve and return. Like my returns were coming off like darts.
Oh yeah.
Which kind of at times brought in a different problem where like I was no longer fast enough to get to the kitchen before my opponent was hitting the ball. So there's like these kind of things to think about. Like everyone's so
the
good.
delay that you're not creating for yourself at the same time.
Right, the ball is coming off my paddle and I'm only able to get to like 2 feet behind the kitchen line instead of being able to get to the kitchen line. And yeah, maybe the passing shot is a little bit harder for them, but the space is so much bigger because I'm not 6'5".
Yeah.
So that was creating its own issue. Feels really good in mix where I can be very aggressive and just kind of rip a lot of high balls. Felt great in hands battles. But then once again, I felt like particularly in men's, my defense was suffering a little bit because the guys hit the ball so hard. So it had, I can't physically hit the ball any softer. So yeah. I think that's where you're seeing it across the board with these thermoform paddles that guys that are switching
trade-offs.
guys exactly guys that are switching to it maybe on certain balls their defense won't be as good as if they had their softer previous paddle. So there are trade-offs. I think every paddle has some obviously pros and cons. So yeah. But it's just all depending on what you're looking for and what your game style is. If you feel like you're a very aggressive player and aren't resetting a lot of balls, I think the Forza is great. I mean, you like to drive and crash and rip hands battles, that's the paddle for you for sure.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side, which you guys have played with me, I never drive the ball. Everything I do is a third shot drop. It's super soft, and at least when I play with the Forza, I feel like I don't even have to play pickleball anymore. I just kind of hold the paddle out there, and it just does.
Yeah,
the
I guess
rest.
I was gonna say if you're tech, and this is why I feel like in the amateur game, these thermoform paddles have become so popular because at a 4.0 level, like no one's hitting the ball as hard as I'm not dealing with James Ignatowicz ripping an overhead at me.
Yeah.
Which with this paddle, like I just don't have any chance of resetting in the kitchen. I can do other things like throw up a lob again, but that's just tough with the percentages and are obviously in his favor hitting overheads. So at Ryan's level, it's great.
Yeah.
Like no one's hitting the ball that hard. You just get a paddle on it. the paddle does a lot for you, or like maybe he doesn't have the best technique. You know, he's a little bit from the elbow.
When are you gonna help him out with that, man?
Everyone asks. My answer is I'd rather help him be
It's
the
hard.
best.
It's hard.
I don't want
I don't have
him to waste the time.
I don't have a lot of extra time, and while I'm here, you know, I like to
It's gonna
kind of
take years
relax.
to fix my shit too.
I was gonna say I've given him some pointers, but Ryan's also not. He's not the easiest to coach.
I'm not trying to go pro.
not like he's hard. It's not like he doesn't listen. It's just that the bad habits have ingrained themselves a decent amount. So that's I guess a little tidbit for anyone who's out there trying to learn how to play pickleball is learn how to do it correctly before you
learn the techniques. I have tennis elbow sometimes. You know, I got some wrist injuries. You know, I also don't really stretch or work out. I just kind of run out there and play pickleball until I get hurt.
All of it.
What
showed
about
when Zubin
how about what
beat
we
you.
worked on? Remember our lesson?
Drives, dude. Those drives have been
Dialed.
Yep.
I can't even remember what we worked on, but
also just like your detail about wrist manipulation. You're like, dude, even just like the slightest movement changes the direction of the paddle, and then the ball, the way the ball hits it. But also like,
you were too wristy.
Yeah, transferring weight too was like another thing. Weight transfer during drives.
Yeah, I mean, you get to move the movements closer to the paddle obviously have a greater effect. So like doing this, like look how if I'm hitting dinks like this, look how drastically different the paddle face changes, right? It's like the paddle's just an extension of your hand. But if I do that, like now I got the paddle face actually going in the direction that I want to hit for longer. So it gives you a bigger window to hit a ball.
Yeah.
Maximizing that contact window.
That one-on-one was like, oh, I'm not just a fan of like who he is on the court, but also like off the court. Because like my jiu-jitsu coach was very like technical, very like cerebral. He wasn't just telling you what he heard from other people. It was like, oh, you know, that just comes from personal experience. He's also like just like taking that from like a technical aspect. And then once you did that, I was like, oh, because I've done one-on-ones with other pros. They were great, but it's also just like, hey, do this movement rather than what are the mechanics that someone should know, and like what is the end like goal for what you're trying to do as far as like the whatever
I
like
think
challenge.
explaining like why is huge.
You have a lot of coaching experience, so
yeah, I mean coaching tennis for almost a decade definitely helps. But that, I mean, that's how my coach was when I growing up. You know, sometimes I think I talk too much, but I'd rather give more information than less. And you know, if someone tells me like, or I, you know, learn that a certain client maybe doesn't retain that much information, you know, then I give it to them in bits. But I think it's important for the brain to understand like why we're doing something instead of just like, oh, I do this because I was told to do it. Because maybe in a certain moment, yeah, you're not able to adjust on the fly. Like every ball's different. So like, yeah, I might tell you to do this, but then maybe the ball's like slightly behind you. So like your wrist angle is gonna have to be in a different, you know, whatever. There's a million different examples, but
it's a tool to be able to like solve the problem on your own, right?
Right.
Because if you just give someone like a blanket statement of how to do something like or a drill, then it's like, well, how can I tailor this to this specific context? And you were able to give that, and you're like giving whoever you're teaching the tool to be able to like learn whatever that analogy about give a man a fish. But
yeah, well, if you don't give them the why, I think you end up with a student who's the one who's always asking like, what should I have done there? Like why did that go? Why did I miss that? Like once you become able to, after a mistake, reflect on it and say, I missed it because of this, that's when you're going to really see improvement in your game. Yeah. Because now every shot you're improving on, like every single mistake is just an opportunity to adjust versus going out there and like just drilling something that your coach said, but you have no idea like why I'm doing it or why it works sometimes. And then other times it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
And back to your point about how pickleball doesn't have a lot of coaches right now, which it's like so odd for me because like in previous sports, or in a lot of sports, it's very, very common. But because people don't have coaches, you're equipping them
with knowledge that they can use to self-assess. Like a lot of people at this point are just learning on their own in pickleball. So being able to give them that tool is definitely helpful. Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's had you guys in the same room. So like, what were you guys doing? Like, actually, like 3 years ago, I remember, Julian, you were talking, I think, to Braden in Pickleball Effect, and you were talking about like right before you got into pickleball, you had some personal things coming up. If you don't feel like disclosing them, we can just cut this part out. But if you're open to disclosing it and kind of sharing a little bit more of your story before getting into pickleball, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just back where we're originally from, San Luis Obispo. I had been teaching tennis there for
10 years?
Yeah, about 10 years. And yeah, I mean, I had just turned 30. Recently single after a pretty long relationship. And then my mom and I, we ended up losing our golden retriever to leukemia at 9 years old. So, and she had been extremely healthy until it happened, and it happened pretty quick. It was probably a 4.5 month process. So that was really tough. Izzy was like an amazing dog, like super well behaved. I took her to all my lessons. She was my dog for pretty much half of the time. And then I ended up moving. I had to move, and I couldn't find any places that would allow dogs. So I ended up I kind of moved in with my mom while I was trying to find a place for about 6 months. And my mom just fell in love with the dog. So, and who wouldn't? She's perfectly trained golden. So I ended up giving it to her, and it was like her second child. But yeah, that was extremely tough for the both of us, and I wasn't in the greatest place. I was pretty depressed and just kind of going through life, not doing a lot. Like obviously I was teaching tennis, but wasn't really building a future. So I did have some of my tennis clients, one more than the others, but really pushed me to try to play pickleball. And then obviously Ryan had come home at some point.
Went to a Ben John's pickleball getaway. Shout out, got to meet all the top pros, and just kept calling Julian and saying, hey, I know you could be the best at the sport. And just based on what I knew from his tennis way back in the day. So that was took a few months of me reaching out, and then I forced him to play with my girlfriend and my dad, which was not competition at all. But
I can't remember if I had been.
You played a little.
I think I had started. I think I started like
you played a few times.
First time picking up the paddle was probably around like end of March 2021.
Yeah, but you were and you were.
And I was playing like once a week.
Yeah, you're barely
playing once a week. I started with a Gearbox GX5.
The green one?
No, it was red.
Oh, I had the green one.
It was a short one. Short, red. I was drawn to the fact that it had no edge guard.
He just kept telling me in my mind, I was like, man, I thought if it's gonna hit near the edge guard, it's a pretty bad shot. So you shouldn't be too excited.
I just kind of liked it. Like it didn't have an edge guard. I was, obviously used to a slightly bigger head, so I figured if it hits out there, but it's similar to, I guess, hitting the frame in a tennis racket. So yeah, I was playing like once a week and out in Pismo. And slowly started enjoying it a little bit more. Then I got a better paddle. I switched to the Franklin. Ben
Johnson.
Because I was like, yeah, I mean, you kind of like look at like the best players in the world and you're like, oh, what's he playing with? Like, well, it must be a good paddle.
Crazy how much has changed since then.
Then I realized how quickly the grit wore out.
We bought a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you like, when you played tennis and then was there like a chance that you were going to be at a competitive level at the pro scene?
I think my career ended a little too soon to really say. I think
There's definitely there's
like
definitely
based,
opportunities.
I wouldn't have made money professionally, but based on like what, and this is kind of speculating, but based on where I got to, and some of my playing partners that I grew up with and where they ended up professionally, I think I could have probably maybe gotten around 500, maybe like 500, 600 for sure. I grew up with a guy who ended up being an All-American at Cal Poly, and he was definitely a better tennis player than me, but I was competitive with him, and he ended up being around, I think he got to just under 300, which is an amazing accomplishment. So, for some of these guys, like people are seeing Jack Sock come in, who's been top 10 in the world. Like, obviously that's an amazing accomplishment in itself, like way more impressive than anything that any of us pickleball players have done.
Yeah.
But it does mean that, like, if he gave pickleball a legitimate shot, he would obviously be a, force out there. I think tennis, obviously there's a bigger court. There's a lot more going on that allows you to like distinguish yourself as, like, he's obviously that level of tennis player compared to the rest of us.
Yeah.
But in pickleball, I think that the playing field would be a little bit more even.
Gotcha.
Just because of the size of the court and just the nature of the game.
Yeah. I just asked that because I didn't know if that was something that like may have contributed to where you were at the time of your life and just kind of like being depressed. I know you mentioned your dog, but also didn't know if that also had an impact of like you had high dreams, high aspirations, and then you go from that dream not being able to happen and come to fruition to then moving into like.
Well, I do think like this whole pickleball journey has just been a second opportunity for me.
That's
like,
awesome.
If that's kind of what you're getting at. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
After I graduated high school, like I was recruited to play at UCLA. I was on the team for just under like 2 years. But I never actually had the opportunity to compete. I ruined that chance myself. So,
Okay.
I had freshman year, I could have played doubles, decided the red shirt because I wanted to play both and not waste a year of eligibility, which kind of ended up being a mistake. Because I ended up wasting that opportunity. Being young, new experience.
I mean, I know you got, since we were young, and, from my view, like, I think you were so good, like, from our town being, like, he was like our star athlete in San Luis Obispo, really small town. And, I think everyone else wanted it more for you than you wanted it yourself at certain points is like kind of what I saw. Obviously this is just my view, but, I know that you loved tennis and enjoyed competing, but I don't know. I just don't think that was like, I know as goals, you're like, hey, I want to go to college. I want to do this. And when you hit those goals, I think there was other things in life that you were prioritizing or, giving more effort to. And I guess not, looking back, it's like, I think everything that happened built this second opportunity where you have the drive, you have, you want to be the best. And, that second opportunity is like, hey, it's now or never, And
you couldn't get this without what happened prior.
I think
right?
so.
Like I've definitely experienced that. Like
I wouldn't agree. I think I've always had the drive, obviously we came from a small town, so but we had a few very, very talented players.
Yeah.
The other guy that I mentioned, Andre, he's to be an All-American is no joke. I think I was always driven. I mean, I'd go down to play these tournaments in SoCal with all these other great players. And I was always a top ranked junior player. So, it's not that I don't think I was driven. I do think, I checked a box when I got recruited and got to school. I was like, wow, okay, like that was the goal. Like the goal was to go and be able to, because for me to go to college, like I don't come from a lot of money. My mom couldn't pay for me to go to college, but with scholarship, everything was achievable. I was able to go to a great school.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I do feel like, I was probably around 9 or 10 on the roster, 6 play. So, and we had guys on our team that were 27, 28 years old that, foreigners that just put college off, or, a couple Israeli guys that have to do military service, and then, then they start their college careers later. So to me, like, I remember as a freshman thinking like how, like, and I was just this, scrawny little 18-year-old kid. It's like, how do I compete with like those guys? Like, like I can compete with the middle of the pack, but like these guys that are in the top 6 are like a whole nother level. Like, how do I feel like I did lose a little bit of that belief, instead of like having, a more mature thought process of saying like, well, if I train and get in the gym and get stronger and mature, I'll be just like them, right? Yeah. Which was totally achievable. So that's where I feel like I missed my opportunity, and then I kind of slipped into like partying way too much, and just had a whole level of freedom where I wasn't around my my family as much.
Be around the people you need to be around.
Yeah, it's the support group that, kept me on track.
Yeah.
So, there was a little bit of that, like breaking out of the shell, and, I wouldn't, some of those memories I wouldn't trade. Obviously, I wouldn't trade, meeting all the guys all my buddies from college, and, I had obviously a great time, but I wish I had done some things differently. And then, I was kind of getting things back on track, and I ended up having like a bad injury, which railroaded me a little bit more. And then at that point, it was just like, I think this ship has sailed a little bit. That didn't work out, but thankfully, I have pickleball in my life, because I think, when you watch me play, you can see, like, I think I was meant to be competing at something. Like, that is,
dude,
that is where I thrive, like in that moment of tight competition.
Dude, the sport is incredibly lucky to have you. And I wouldn't say you're necessarily a heel to a degree. There's definitely some other people who play the role a little bit better, but you do bring something aside from the technical aspect and the way you play. Of course, extremely exciting. Just your personality is something that the sport is definitely missing. There's other people doing something similar, right? Like Hayden is good at that. I don't think Jeff Warnick really plays as much anymore, but he's also got personality. And it's also like why I want to get you on here. It's like we see the person on the court. It's very simple to make some assumptions. And there's other podcasts that you've been on that have been like, wow, this helped me see the other side of Julian. It's like, wow, I actually like this guy. Like, I had Doug from BreadNButter hit me up and it was just like, dude, I watched one of Julian's podcasts. I just thought he was like this aggressive aggro dude. And then I like saw him on the podcast. I didn't realize he's just this chill, like California, got this like kind of chill vibe, and is like a great player. So it's cool to like see this other side. And yeah, again, the sport's super grateful for the both of you, like bringing into this product. You have like rising stars that you're bringing on, and you guys have like cool plans. But man, like you won MVP for a reason, right? Like you're standout person, just personality wise, as an athlete, professional athlete. So it's great to see you get the second opportunity and not waste it. There's tons of people who do that, and it's unfortunate to see you like go through it. And also you met Lauren through pickleball, right?
Yeah, I met her at my first tournament ever, actually, which was before Ryan really got involved. So I played 2 tournaments on my own, and one of them was San Clemente, PPA San Clemente. So
Something about that venue, man.
Yeah.
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 Well, yeah. just happened to be the closest tournament that I could find.
And
And
only, I was driving from San Luis Obispo. He wasn't looking outside of state to be.
no, I remember I wasn't in. I obviously hadn't been doing anything other than like for like the level of fitness that we need to be at. Me just giving hitting lessons and normal teaching lessons where I'm at a basket. I was not in great shape. So I went and played Thursday singles. I drove down. I played pro singles. I remember I was playing some guy who I think played at like Redlands, which I think might be D1. I'm not sure. Anyways, it's just like, average tennis school or something like that. And I lost the first set, and I was like talking to myself, like I do. And I was like, is this really like what you came down to do, is to go and lose like first round to like I wanted to lose. If I was going to lose, I wanted to lose to someone like that I had seen play. So I thankfully turned that one around and ended up, I think, winning the next 2 sets favorably, I think. And then I played Deckel, who was still playing singles at the time. And I had never seen anyone hit the ball so hard. Like,
he came back right after, and he's like, "I don't even know how to return. I can't even get that practice in here in our town."
No, there was no preparation. Like, I don't think there's very few professionals that you can. Thankfully, I get to practice with Deckel a little bit now, so a decent amount. So I've gotten used to that. But at the time, I was like, "Oh my goodness, the guy's just blasting balls!" Like, and then I still can't let balls go. Like, back then I was hitting everything. Like, he would hit passing shots that I'm sure probably would have gone 3 feet out. And I'm like trying to like hit him behind my head. And like, he annihilated me like 1-1 or 1-2 or something. So lost, and then I think I grinded like three more wins. I had a very memorable match against one of the, I think their last name's the Aranis brothers. I don't think they were trying to play pro. I don't think they play pro anymore.
Gotcha.
And I think they were here in Austin.
They're out of Austin.
Oh, shout out to the Ronis brothers.
I think they were doing some teaching and stuff like that. So,
okay.
But I had a pretty memorable match with, I think, the younger brother. Just a funny story that I can still tell to people every now and then. But yeah, I remember driving after the tournament. I drove back home. I was gonna play. I had mixed 5-0 with this lady, Stacy Zielinski, from my area. Who was like, I think she's trying to play senior pro now. At the time, she was 49.
Shout out Stacy.
Yeah. So Stacy's one of the first people that I played pickleball with, and definitely one of the better ladies and players in San Luis Obispo.
That's awesome.
But anyways, I think at the time I probably would have said that she was like a 4-5. So we played 5-0. Mixed on Sunday. I drove back on Thursday. I have a stick shift, which was brutal because I was like going through LA traffic. I'm like dying. I'm like dying. I'm dying. Yeah. And then I drove with them. Thankfully, I think we drove down Saturday night and played Sunday. I was covering a lot of the court, working pretty hard, and by the end of the day, I think we won like 3 matches, and then we played. And it's kind of small. No, that was
different.
That's a different tournament. Then we played Maggie Brasha.
Oh, okay.
And this guy Nick Garza. We lost to them, and then right after that, in the back draw, we played Hayden and Mary Brasha. So it was kind of funny to play. Obviously 3 names that most pickleball fans know at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, another small world event, but yeah, that was fun for and then I hung around a little bit. I decided, show face a little bit and sit down and try to talk to some pros. I actually sat down next to Pat Smith and was talking to him a little bit. And that just happened to be who Lauren was playing mixed with at the time. So she ended up at some point coming down and sitting down, and I think we just got talking about like where we're from. She's from Santa Barbara, so
okay. Santa Barbara's awesome.
Yeah, so that's
super close to our hometown.
It's 90 miles further south than San Luis Obispo. So, she knew obviously where that was and struck up a conversation. And then somehow I ended up getting to train with her a little bit, and things went from there.
It's cool. It's cool to see, man. I remember at the one event, I think you were playing with Jesse Irvin, and Lauren was on the other side of the net, and you guys were playing. I think it was the indoor.
That was
venue.
North Carolina last year.
Yeah,
that was a bronze medal match. She was playing with Tyson.
It was awesome to see because I don't think I've seen it yet, but you guys played your regular selves, and then at the end of the match, you guys like hugged across the net. And I thought it was like a very wholesome moment because it's tough. You have to be competitive, but you're also in a relationship with this person. And then there's that event that happened, and another event where you and Lauren, I think,
My
won.
stomach's growling.
Jesus Christ.
I only ate half of the sandwich.
Did the mic pick that up?
Yeah.
Oh man, I ate half a sandwich before I got here, but I guess I should have eaten the whole thing.
You, Lauren, and then Lauren gave a shout out to like you guys' relationship and having like a mental coach or like I don't know if it's like a relationship therapist, mental coach, but it's cool. It's great to see. And filming you just over the past 2 events is being able to see like when you're not playing, you're pretty much, I can't tell if it's the phone vibrating or your stomach.
It's my
stomach.
stomach.
It's stomach.
It's talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just awesome to see that part because when you're not playing, you're pretty much watching her or you're like talking to her. I don't really see that often out there, but something that you did say was that resonated with me was after you lost your matches, like after the mixed one and you like stuck around. That was probably like the hardest thing as a professional athlete is like anytime I lost, you had to stay around and you had to like you had to like converse a little bit. You could go home after that and cry yourself to sleep, but you have to stick around and you have to like put on this face and you have to talk to people and it's tough. And I even captured some of that on the camera. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't even want to be around this guy right now. Because, like, I know what that feels like, and the last thing he wants is a camera in his face.
This was in Dallas?
Yeah, rock wall. And even, like, MLP, I was like, just keep your distance.
Yeah,
keep your distance.
It's definitely...
That's why cameras have zooms, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a balancing act. And, you're an emotional player, so when, it doesn't go right, you definitely get frustrated, and sometimes it takes a little time to cool down, and I think the cool thing about watching Julian is you get to watch someone be human. You don't. You're
not holding anything back.
All the other players, they're robots. Not everyone, but they're a little more robotic. Where some of them are so skilled where they don't. I feel need to go to that 5th gear. And Julian looks like he's always playing in 5th gear. Which.
Hey, J-Dub broke a paddle at MLP. He's
No.
human too.
Yeah,
did he?
And Tardio was talking crap. Yeah,
Tario's hilarious.
Tardio talking crap out there. So no, overall,
the Bolivian gangster.
Yeah, so it's like watching Julian. It's like I've known you so long. It's people ask me, "Oh, did you talk to Julian?" I'll be like, "No, I'm gonna wait for him to reach out to me." I'll kind of just give him his day. I'm not a professional. I'm not gonna tell him on the court what he did right or wrong. I'm just gonna be like, you're gonna lose some.
You'll just get the DMs from other people telling you what Julian needs to work on.
I told you. Oh yeah, I had some guy. By the way, everyone that reaches out for support, thank you for the support. But I will never tell Julian what to do on the court. Even if I have my own thoughts, I don't tell him what to do on the court. The only thing I ever tried to tell you is, get your energy going, because I think that's in the end what can
to love my paddle.
Yeah. And to tell people you love your paddle, because it is your paddle you made. So
I sleep with the MLP one under my pillow. That's how much I love it.
And that one's smooth, by the way.
Ryan sleeps with the check.
Oh, I got the big check at my house. I'm excited. Yeah, no, pickleball's been fun. It's not that you asked a question about it, but it's awesome for me to be able to blend business, which I love, and then pickleball, which is, my new passion. And I was watching the pros on YouTube before Julian even picked up a paddle. And, back then I was watching Jack Foster and not saying like he's the best player, but I saw his passion, his energy, his talking to himself. And I literally was like, Julian can do this. Like, I think he can do, be this entertaining. And, obviously he's a lot more entertaining. So, and I saw that way back when I would go watch some of your tennis matches, I'd never seen them lose. Like they had your matches during school sometimes.
So it kind of worked out nicely for like
A little crowd.
my friends to come watch, and
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not like there was, again, when we're talking about watching tennis, it was
I mean for the CIF matches we had probably like a couple, like maybe 150 to 200 people out there.
Yeah.
Normal matches with
20, 30
normal
parents.
matches like 30, 40.
couple friends.
Tell that story about the banana.
Oh yeah, no, I'd go see this guy play, and I did not grow up playing tennis at all. All I knew is if I went to go watch a Julian Arnold tennis match, I was guaranteed to be entertained. I mean, I literally would have some food and just sit there and eat and watch, and Julian would kick the crap out of everybody. But in between timeouts and stuff, even if he was up by a lot, he's yelling at himself. He's like, Julian, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, has his banana in his hand. He's like eating a banana, starts yelling at his banana. Like, and this is before I like,
I don't remember
this is before people were filming everything. But I would literally start telling our other friends, I'd be like, hey, like, let's go watch Julian play tennis. Like, not to see tennis. Like, we didn't go there. He's
Like,
an
like,
entertainer.
they're like, I don't like tennis.
I don't like
That's
tennis.
fine. Do you like a guy going nuts at a banana?
Yeah, and it's not like he was losing. He was winning. And then the funniest thing is, again, I only saw some of your matches. I didn't go travel ever, but there's this big dude. He was like probably like 6'3", and his whole game plan was to hit the ball so hard that it bounced, so it would hit the fence. So you could. He was trying it, and then I mean, you beat him up. But I was just like watching this guy get so frustrated, and you're just yelling at yourself at a banana. Like, just so you guys know, when he's yelling, he's not trying to pull anyone else down. He's just trying to hype himself up. So that's, I think, from the fans' view, not everyone sees that. Like, he's not yelling at the other player. Like, every now and then he gets into a little battles, but it's when it's accepted on the other side and they're giving it back. So, yeah, that was enough entertainment for me to be like, yeah, this guy he puts on a show, and
The best part is when you're watching a live stream and Julian isn't even on the court and you just hear
Diamo. And that's the only way I keep up because there's no live score updates. And if he's on like court 4, I'm sitting there clicking refresh on, pickleball tournaments or whatever. And then I hear an Andiamo and I'm like, okay, we're doing all right. We're in this match. If I don't hear an Andiamo, I'm scared to see the score. I'm like, what happened? What happened? I'm like, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, those random Andiamos are pretty freaking funny.
What's been your favorite moment so far?
I mean, the MLPs have been great.
Yeah.
I obviously really enjoy getting to do this whole thing with Lauren. Makes it, very enjoyable. Traveling, playing.
It's a tough schedule.
It is. Yeah. It'd be lonely doing it by yourself for sure. It's a lot of travel. Yeah, I mean, I still think back to like my singles nationals tournament. I still think that's the biggest crowd that pickleball has seen. Like, that's a huge stadium, and they filled it. So there's thousands of people watching those matches live, which is exhilarating. So yeah, I mean, that was a memorable moment for sure. We'll see how big it is this year. But last year, pretty much everyone still played it. It was still considered a very, very big tournament. It was at the end of the year, so I just felt like it was like
It put you on the map as a solid player that wasn't just made it there once or twice. Like, it was well deserved.
I just think it was good
Yeah.
timing and like a good like end of the season where it showed like the work that I had put in all year. Like, I think I obviously was playing more APPs than PPAs. At that point, I'd say both tours were comparable. APP probably a little bit better on the singles end or deeper, and PPA was just a little bit more top heavy.
Yeah. Did you play Tyson in that singles national?
I played him in the.
It was Ben.
I lost it in the semis to Ben, but then I had to play Tyson in the bronze.
Oh.
So like Tyson won bronze, and then that's how like the loser gets bronze, and then I went on to play on Sunday against Ben. But yeah, I mean, it was just a good run, and to do it with all the best players in singles was fun. So something about playing in California.
Yeah, we just left California. I just got back last night, and I was there for 11 days, and I'm like, man, I live in Texas. It's hot. Let's go. Like, I'll be inside for a while.
Dude, we got spoiled. We were wearing like hoodies out in San Clemente.
Well, I've heard that the weather in California hasn't been great. It's been, kind of cold and rainy and cloudy, and
Yeah.
I feel like the 2 weeks that we were there, it was actually pretty nice. Like, people were saying like, oh, this is the nicest it's been in months. So perfect timing for us to be there. And usually it doesn't work that way. Usually we end up going to a tournament and like maybe it's been slightly rescheduled, and it's like Dallas was so hot, and then it's always like somehow rains for like just enough time to delay, and like I don't know, it's crazy. Like sometimes these tournaments, it's got to be pretty tough for the PPA. Like they don't always go smoothly because of the weather. So
Yeah.
Atlanta, it rained a little bit. Like we should start playing. I hope we start playing indoors a little bit more. I like
Indoor
the
with outdoor.
Oh yeah,
courts,
yeah, normal courts, but just indoors, just like they do at these Lifetimes. Like
Like Minnesota too. Like
yeah,
North
and
Carolina.
I just think for what we're playing with, the ball that we're playing with, it just keeps it more consistent. Because if it's 100 degrees, like it's just ridiculous, the ball. Or like even if it gets too windy, like because the ball's so light, it's kind of a joke. Like it's not like tennis where it's not getting like completely blown around. Like a pickleball could just get swept off the court. Like
Let's talk a little bit about Volair. What kind of plans do you guys have? Ryan, feel free to tell us a little bit about that side. I know Julian, I've watched a PB Effect. You talked about, and some of the other podcasts, you talked a little bit about the origins of Volair and all that, so we don't really need to get into that. But I mean, you guys have a lot of stuff going on, like the thermoform paddle, and there's obviously the blacked out version, there's a gradient version. There's the design, and you're also working on the stuff with Evan. And also just Julian himself building his brand.
Yeah, so right now with Volair, we have our Mach 1 out right now. And so this is right now our only current offering in 14, 16 millimeter. And then coming out July 11th is going to be the Forza. And, this with the gradient right here is going to be available for sale everywhere. And then this blacked out version is going to be only available at Total Pickleball. We started with this version, the blacked out version, and then we realized after Julian played Atlanta with it that we only could use about 15% of the photos that we took, just based on the angle and catching the glare the right way. So
can't see it.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Can't
So
see
it was pretty hard.
Nope. Yep.
And for our photography, I was like, man, that is too much additional work to say, hey, that's a great shot. Julian's doing a really cool action shot, and we don't want to use it because it doesn't show it. So we had already shot some advertisements with Total Pickleball, so we ended up making a win-win and doing an exclusive release. So get the blacked out version, the stealth edition at Total Pickleball. But yeah, so that's what we have going on. So far with our testing, we've had about 30 or 40 of these being play tested pretty heavily, and we have not had one official delamination at all. When we did have our Julian's paddles tested at MLP, one spot, like they put like pounds of pressure.
It is a deflection test.
Yeah, they put two spots right here. I learned all about it. And then also on the other side right here. And on one of the paddles, it was like for the deflection test, it was like close, but as a whole, it was still a completely legal paddle. And that was just after we did the rest of our testing, that was considered a fluke that we had that one spot. So, just from the start, that paddle had, one little spot, but our testing's been great. They're super durable. Again, like how I said, I am pretty much just holding the paddle out there, and the paddle does most of it. So for amateurs that either want to hit hard or that are control players like myself, it is very different to play with. I like it a lot. And then also what we're working on is a different shape. So we're going to have the Mach 1 and these Forza in a shorter, wider shape, just different preference. And then with both those shapes, we're also going to be doing fiberglass paddles that are going to be, you know, a little more cost friendly. You know, they're going to be either $89 or $99, and you know, it's still going to be a high level pro paddle that has rough fiberglass, so has grit to it, and they're nice and gritty. And then you know, Julian has it, you know, his name on all these paddles right now as a signature paddle. Evan, who's also known as Fit to Serve, he has a signature paddle coming out too. It is awesome. I've shown you the design.
Seen the design. It's something that hasn't been done
different,
yet.
yeah.
And I say that in a good way because it also looks good. You can do something that's not been done yet and it look like complete dog, but it's done tastefully. So the designers who worked on it, it's good. And also,
I like the color combination of Evan's paddle a lot.
It fits the brand.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see. That will probably be out in about a month, but so I'd say in about a month and a half, we will have a total of 6 paddles in 2 different thicknesses. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're going to be at for the near future.
3 paddles in 2 different thicknesses.
Well, no, we got 2 different shape Forzas. We got 2 different shape, this one, and then 2 fiberglass shape, and then in 14 and 16. So we got 6 in 2 sizes.
Don't look at me for math on that.
Okay.
1 and 1.
2
that and short.
Yep. This in short.
And this in short.
Fiberglass in short.
So
that's
fiberglass and short.
Okay. So we're gonna have 6 in 14 and 16 millimeters. So a total of 6 different paddles. Yeah, and then besides that, we're just trying to have fun and do things differently, but also not be too all over the place because I do have a lot of creative ideas, and like at the top of my to list, it literally says like, don't start any new projects. Like that's like my number 1 thing on my to list because we have so many projects already going on.
Do you also hear his ideas that he has?
He doesn't hear all of them.
They're ridiculous, dude. Someone's got to keep this dude, keep him honest with that list.
Well, like
constantly.
when we made the Andiamo button, I was like, man, I like it went back and forth. I was like, Julian, more intensity. And he's like, I can't just do an Andiamo right now. I was like, dude, please, so much. And then
I think they're good. I think
cool.
some people like the the passive one. The
Andiamo.
Yeah.
That one.
I was harnessing my Dylan Frazier when I did that.
Yeah. That one's kind of funny.
I think it's good. I don't think it needs to be like,
Yeah.
We wanted the speakers to last, so I wasn't trying to like.
Yeah, so with Evan's paddle, it's gonna have its own push button where Evan says some of his phrases from his videos.
Stoked though, like you guys also have a paddle bag, which I've looked at a lot of other bags. I don't know if they ever even use or test them. Some of them have the zipper of the paddle facing the person's back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what sense does that make?
Doesn't make any.
And they have like all these like the pockets don't really make sense, and the size are like I guess, but then like y'all's bag the main like core pocket, then the 2 side ones they're identical, so you can fit a ton of stuff. Also comfortable to wear, and I wore it in Rockwall, which I was like,
it has nice backpack straps.
Yeah,
but yeah,
merch looks good.
Yeah, and I'm wearing one of the Andiamo shirts right now. I mean, so we have Julian has his own line of 1 shirt right now in 2 different colors, and we have a hat that's pretty cool with Julian's brand logo, which is this V circle with Julian Andiamo Arnold around it, and it's also on the butt cap of all of our paddles. So when we first were coming out with the paddles, everyone's like, "This wasn't made by Julian. It doesn't have Andiamo anywhere on it." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's hidden in the details." So later, actually, with this Forza, let me talk about what it comes with. So everyone's going to get a gift box with the Forza, like every single purchase. So our first paddle, which was the Mach 1, we had 2 different versions. We had just the paddle itself, or you could also get a gift box where it had the push button and a Julian autograph thank you card, some wristbands, and some balls. But I just love the unboxing experience. I'm all about offering more than just a paddle, but like an experience, also entertainment.
Dude, the amount of paddles I've gotten that just come an envelope or that poppy plastic thing. You're like, what kind of? But then you like
bubble wrap.
Yeah,
bubble wrap.
And these are expensive paddles. I mean, so like with this new Forza, it's me. I kind of compare it to like getting a Barbie with its accessories. Like you get your Barbie and it has a couple outfits. So, you know, you're going to get your Mach 1 Forza and then
Ryan had Barbies, I guess.
I played
Before I knew him. He has a lot of sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, right. We played Barbies like a couple years ago. So, you know, with the Mach 1 Forza, we're going to give, you know, we got this light blue grip, which just offsets just the dark boldness of the colors. And then right here we have a Volair band, but on in the kit, you're also going to get an eraser. So everyone's going to get a paddle eraser, which, you know, are definitely really nice for the carbon fiber paddles to, you know, keep your paddle looking nice, but also performance-wise, it does take out some of the debris that can lose some of the traction. And then we're going to have a blacked out backup grip that you can change into a blackout, so you can have the paddle all blacked out. I think it'll look extra cool with the total pickleball version. And then we're going to have a little Andiamo band right here. So you can also have Andiamo right here, and then also on the butt cap too. A couple stickers, and I think, and then a head cover. So I think that's what you get with the Forza, and it's
awesome.
gonna be $179.99, which compared to, you know, other top paddles in the market, definitely competitive on pricing. And again, with our testing, we've had 0 official delaminations, and I mean we have pros hitting these paddles, so it's I'd say our testing's been going really good. We definitely could have released earlier, but I did not want to be a part of the headache of delamination. And at the time, if we would have released right when we first started testing, we would have dealt with a lot of headaches. And I'm really happy to avoid that and put out a product that's hopefully can be enjoyed by all and not really have too many issues for us to deal with on the back end.
I'm glad you made the point about the delamination, because like when I put that review out, people were like, "Oh, why don't you talk about like power, spin, and control?" I'm like,
Yeah.
a lot of that is just very subjective, right? Like you can look at a paddle company's website, like this ranks 94 out of, you're like, out of what?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what people should really be looking at is warranty, delamination history, and I forgot the other factor, but I was like, because there are a lot of these thermoform paddles are coming out with tons of delamination problems, and
it's a headache, because like even if you enjoyed the paddle before it delaminated, you have to deal with customer service. You may not have a pickleball paddle for 3 days a week, you know, maybe even longer if the customer service is backed up, which I've heard about from some of the top companies. And you know, by then myself as a consumer, I'm already buying another pickleball paddle.
Yeah.
Because I just want to keep playing.
And a lot of people don't have the luxury to have more than one paddle or to be able to buy another one. So they have to wait, and they're like sitting out of pickleball for like 3 weeks or whatever. So that's definitely a problem.
Yeah. And you know, with Volair, you know, I've been dealing with the customer service myself. I've been responding to every single email. You know,
It's not Julian?
No. People write him the thank you letters.
Wait, is there a Julian trading card?
They're coming soon. Julian does have some trading cards coming out with Leaf. We're really excited to sign with them. But I'm not sure if it's going to come out as an individual card, kind of like the other ones have, or if they're going to wait for the packs and box set to come out, because I know that's coming soon. But yeah, as of now, we don't really have a date for when the first card is coming out, but we've definitely signed some. So that's really exciting too. So.
Who's been like the most influential person in your life?
I mean, definitely my mom. Just always been around for me. And I'd have to say my tennis coach growing up, Hugh. You know, he taught me how to play tennis. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be the pickleball player I am. And you know, not only did he teach me, but he taught me for free since the age of 7. So,
Much appreciated.
Yeah, I couldn't have been luckier to have him in my life. Amazing coach, collegiate coach. Worked with names like Sampras and Chang when they were younger on the U.S. junior team. So you know, he's been around tennis for a very, very long time. So you know, those are just a few of the people that helped me get to where I am. You know, there's many names of people in San Luis Obispo that have helped me in some way, whether it's just being a training partner, a mentor. So,
shout out to my mom for helping. She's the travel
What did she
planner.
do? Oh, okay.
Travel planner for Julian and collaborates with Lauren on some of the travel plans and then also helps on some Volair projects, such as like, paying the pros, after each tournament and just, making sure that certain things are always on time, because like as a business, I'm focused on so many things. The last thing I want to do is like not pay a pro on time. Like that to me just sounds awful. Like,
Yeah.
Just making sure that relationship between the company and the sponsored players is enjoyable and not a tough experience, because in the pickleball world, when I was helping manage and sponsor Julian before Volair, we definitely had our own experiences with other companies that we did not feel, I'd say, really that important at times, which is kind of frustrating. When you're trying to, collaborate with companies that you like their product or that you want to work with.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's something, that we kind of have like we have a small team, but we have, my family involved. A shout out to our designers. A lot of our designers worked at Bumble previously and are just extremely creative and can really translate some of the ideas that I do have. And then, Julian has and just like put it into art on a
easy.
paddle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love art. So like I have my own ideas and like, let's just say if like there was a point where Julian and we made our own logo and we were like, this is it. And I'm so glad we did not release it. Like it was a mix between a Titleist logo and then like Air from Nike Air. And like, we both thought it was cool, but then we got some feedback from some family and friends and they're like, you guys might want to do another revision. And I was like, oh, okay, we're getting a pretty common understanding that we're not going to be the lead designers of Volair, but, allow our ideas to be translated through really good designers.
Shout out Mama Cohen. Shout out to coaches. I think coaches, I was fortunate enough to have that experience of receiving a coach that had my best interest in mind. But I think the new generation now, you're seeing, it's just evident that a lot of them are moving towards phones, social media, less on sports, also because of like concussions and injuries. And there's just kind of like that fear-based like mindset going into sports. And I think coaches are so overlooked for the job that they do and like the influence they have on the development of a child. It's like very unfortunate that there aren't more coaches. But yeah, when you talked about a coach, I know I can resonate with that 100%. They're so instrumental in forming how you see the world and who you become as an adult. And to say that that person didn't take money for 7 years or up until you were like 7 years old.
No, from the age of 7.
From the age of 7.
7 until I was graduate high school.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So even longer. Many coaches do it selflessly. They just have the best interest of that child's development in mind, which is awesome. Yeah. They did research that it turns out after all that your parents aren't the biggest influence of the development of a child. It's actually the coaches and the peers around that child, like their friends and their coaches, who have the largest influence on their development. This is awesome. This was my first in-person. I think this is my first in-person. I've been wanting to do in-person for a while, but also because it's been great because I watched you from very early on as far as pickleball. And I was
I've met Brian on the pickleball courts before
we started our projects.
Before building pickleball.
Yeah.
Julian, I think, had just been playing a little bit of pro, and I told Brian like way back in the day, I was like, Julian's gonna be one of the best players in all of pickleball.
Yeah, you just called it. It's like he's not gonna be a flash in the pan. Yeah. And it was just like what we were talking about before. Like if you had one MLP mesa, it's great, right? But a true champion and true like a person who has a very significant impact on a sport can do it multiple times. If you can do it multiple times, that's when you know you have what you've done is truly special. So it's great to see, and congratulations on the win. And appreciate you guys letting me be a part of that. Like I went to the team dinner and everything, and just being behind the scenes. I know it's not easy to have a film guy and someone that you haven't had developed trust with. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on this podcast. It's like probably one of my longest ones as well. But yeah, if you guys have any last things you want to say before we cut it off.
Thank you for all the support for Volair. Thank you for all the support for Julian. I mean, as a fan, I know that, like, you know, pickleball is very addicting, and it's something that became a part of my life, and just everyone else in the pickleball space are awesome people, and to get to collaborate with people that I know I would have never met on the basketball court, it's really cool. I mean, over half my friends are all from pickleball. You're probably easily the same or more.
You know, echoing the same thing that Ryan said. You know, thanks everyone out there that supports us. It's, you know, it's great to have fans. You know, thanks Ryan. Thanks to my girlfriend Lauren. You know, everyone back in SLO that supports us. My mom, Jim, Ryan's parents. You know, he told me that his dad had his restaurant packed watching the whole MLP thing. So that's pretty cool. You know, Leonard and I go pretty far back too. Used to play golf pretty much weekly together. So
as his golfing son, I hate golf. So my dad's like, I'm just going to take Julian out whenever he wants. And Julian's happy. He's like, oh, I'm going to play some nice courses.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I wish I could play a little bit more golf. I'll have to bring my clubs back next time I'm in SLO. But yeah, you know, everyone that's been watching the journey, you know, I appreciate the support and the texts I get. So, and the haters, you know, gotta have the haters too.
Yeah, no,
to motivate.
Yeah, and you know, for all the haters, you know, we're gonna just keep doing what we're doing, and you know, we're listening, but we're just not gonna change. We're gonna have fun with what we're doing, and Volair, yeah, Volair's just
I don't know if Volair has haters. I get the haters.
No, Julian.
Rhombus.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah, what is this rhombus?
This company keeps saying that we copied them. I had never heard of you until we were being. Isn't that
a square? It's a slanted square.
It's not a
rhombus.
Shape.
It's a slanted square.
Very good point.
It's a diamond.
It's all good. It's all good. You know,
they don't have that $240,000 MLP check.
No, they don't. But we have it in our office, so we're pretty happy. But yeah, you know, pickleball is still growing, and we're gonna keep having fun. Julian's gonna keep winning.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're playing with Riley for at least one tournament.
And right there,
at least,
dude, that's gonna be.
I don't know when this comes out, so it doesn't matter. It's already
probably in like a week. I have ready, but I'm gonna put this out before because
the Riley thing's already posted on the 2 tournaments away. So
dude,
it's not hidden information.
Dude, the Riley is gonna be